Welcome back, everyone. POW Ponder on Weather here. In this update, we've got some areas that will experience record high temperatures, as well as other areas much more pleasant conditions, while much of the country is in a lull on the severe weather front over the next couple of days. But it does look to ramp up again by the time we head into your Friday and your Saturday time frame. So let's start off with the overall water vapor imagery this morning. You can actually see where all the clearing and sinking air is depicted on this orange on the map here. That is a lot of sinking air, a lot of drier air. But where it's not sinking is further along the coastal regions, where we do have this stalled frontal boundary that's draped across into the Gulf of Mexico. That's going to be lifting northbound over the next day or so. And that's actually going to be spinning up a little bit of an area low pressure along the coastal regions that are going to be experiencing some very heavy rain showers. But for the rest of the country, it's pretty pleasant. It's kind of rare to see such widespread clearing across a good part of the country. In fact, no severe weather whatsoever today across really all the areas across the lower 48. So definitely enjoy the nice day ahead. And a lot of the areas are experiencing nice temperatures. Instead, we do have a ridging of high pressure that's going to be building over the top. Look at those temperatures today. In fact, 17 record high temperatures across this area that includes portions of Kansas and to Nebraska, even South Dakota cranking all the way up to 87 degrees. And look at Phoenix, 98 degrees, folks. They're dangerously close, approaching that 100-degree mark. But for the rest of the country, all those widespread 70s and conditions with much more pleasant type air. But really the cooler game in town is up here into the Pacific Northwest, where they do have that little boundary and experience some chilly conditions. I mean, those are more or less higher temperatures as you get into your late afternoon time frame. So that's definitely chilly for the second week of April. So if you are new to the channel and like detailed weather breakdowns on North America, hit the subscribe button and you're in. You get all my daily content on this channel. It's also important to hit the like button as well. It definitely helps out more than you know. So let's really delve into this and look at the map going into tomorrow. You can really see where this region of high pressure is depicted in this orange shaded area. That is all your sinking air, folks. But the ridging over the top will allow this area down here in the Gulf of Mexico to possibly try to strengthen a little bit more. It's going to run out of time before it makes it inland. But we do have an area of low pressure that we're going to have to be looking at, again, draped along the coastal regions, back into Louisiana, back into portions of like Mobile, into the Florida panhandle over the next couple of days. But for much of the country, they've got a lot of sinking air and it's really clear skies. But under those clear skies, you're going to have some record daily high temperatures underneath that. But it's nothing but the opposite up here into the far extreme portions of the Pacific Northwest, where they got much cooler conditions and a lot more unsettled weather, and that just brings those rain showers back into the picture. But look at the rain over the next 48 hours, folks. This is rare April showers. Where'd they go? Look at that. I mean, only, like I said, only the game in town is right that little pesky low pressure center across far extreme portions into the Gulf of Mexico, where if you just live across these coastal regions, yeah, you're going to be experiencing some very heavy torrential rains. But other than that, there's hardly a drop in sight. Again, the only instability is that unsettled weather in the far extreme portions of the Pacific Northwest. And that'll be for today going into tomorrow time frame. And as we head into your Wednesday afternoon, there's your record high temperature, folks. I mean, in fact, 31 of them, as that ridge really starts to build and sink. And the longer it sits there, the longer it takes advantage of some of those drier soils where they are experiencing those drought conditions in this part of the country. It's going to heat up quick, folks. It doesn't matter. I mean, with the sun in place, that really is going to be intensifying the heat in the later afternoon time frame. Hard to press, these widespread upper 80s for Nebraska here, even Iowa checking into the mid 80s. And look at Minneapolis, folks. They got 90 inches of snow for the season. It don't matter with that ridge of high pressure in place. 83 degrees. It's warm when it's definitely hotter in Minneapolis than it is in much of Texas. So that gives you an idea of the air mass that you're dealing with. But it's completely the opposite up here into the far extreme portions of the Pacific Northwest. I mean, those are high temperatures, folks, and the 40s. That is chilly stuff up there into Washington and Oregon and Idaho and even Montana, still trying to hold on what's left of what's a little bit left of winter up there. But again, as we head into Thursday, we got several days of this. There's not much severe weather to speak of. Pretty rare for this time of year, especially as you head in towards the middle of April. I mean, this is prime time severe weather season. We definitely had a pretty active time frame, but it's quieted down pretty substantially over the last couple of days. And the only instability in town by the time we head into Thursday is that little low pressure center will be just far inland enough where most of this will be some heavier rains, but some of those could be some gustier thunderstorms in the heat of the afternoon, but more or less concerned about just those heavier rain showers draped across a good part of the Florida panhandle and extreme portions of Alabama and heading into Georgia. But look at the temperatures as we head into Thursday, folks. The ridge of high pressure will be slowly migrating from west to east, and it really starts to intensify along the East Coast. I mean, places like into New York City will be topping out in the 80s for this time of year. Yeah, numerous records will be falling across the board here, draped across the I-95 corridor, where you see where the cold air is, right? You can see that cold air, that cold front will be slow grading, migrating into the central part of the U.S. Eventually, as this low pressure center moves further inland, that will allow the Gulf of Mexico to open up. So you can see where more the moisture is by the time we head into your Friday time frame with that low pressure center that's draped along the coastal regions right now will be more or less over the Carolinas by then. That'll be far enough away where it does actually open up the Gulf of Mexico and allow that south wind to come back in the picture. And you get the south wind that's going to be pulling some of those well above average sea surface anomalies, a lot of that moisture that's been trapped down in the Gulf. It finally opens up by the time we head into Friday afternoon, lifting those dew points back into the low 60s. Mid-50s back here in Oklahoma, getting back into Kansas. And in fact, look at the temperatures as we head into Friday time frame. More record high temperatures going to be falling. Daily highs breaking for the next 4, 5, 6 days across this region. So plenty of warmth on the way. Even Maine, even parts of Maine get in the mid 70s, folks. That is some warm stuff. But yeah, again, we'll be starting to get a little bit more concerned now that moisture is going to be back in the picture, especially as we get into Friday. We're going to be talking about severe storms by then. In fact, the Storm Prediction Center has a day 4 risk. Down here, it does include the Dallas-Fort Worth area. It does actually include much of western, eastern Oklahoma, getting into Oklahoma City, Stillwater, Tulsa, back into McAllister, back into Ada, Ardmore, those areas, and extending into Kansas. Now, this looks to be more of widespread, across the region. But underneath that, there's a lot of capping inversion that is going to be causing to inhibit these storm developments. So this is what they would often refer to as a conditional risk. This far out, there are instability factors and say, hey, we could be getting all modes of severe weather on Friday afternoon ahead of an active dry line. But we have a strong capping inversion in place across a good part of these regions. So anytime you get a SIN value of more than a negative 100 here, that's a pretty strong capping inversion. That's draped across Dallas, that's draped across Oklahoma, and it's going to be draped across Kansas too. So if you're able to break the cap in these regions, which that warm air aloft, then yeah, some of these could be some nastier supercell thunderstorms. But right now it's about a 20, maybe 30% conditional risk in the heat of the afternoon. If you happen to break one of these, there's more probability is going to be what they call elevated showers that form on top of the boundary layer that are typically not severe. So yes, we'll have to fine tune this as it gets closer, but as of right now, we do have that conditional risk in place in case something does penetrate the boundary layer those things could be fairly nasty. Kind of what you experienced yesterday in parts of Oklahoma. There were some big time hail producers down there. Some of those areas got some, golf ball size hail in some of those areas near Oklahoma City. So we'll have to be watching out for those storms into the heat of the afternoon, Friday night time frame. But yeah, you can see where that low pressure is. By the time we head into your Friday afternoon, it's draped across a good part of Kentucky, into Tennessee by then, back into the Carolinas, into North Carolina. We'll be into the rain shower activity, while you do have some snow flying into the higher elevations of the Intermountain West. But as we get into your Saturday time frame, that's probably going to be your little bit more significant day. I ran some parameters here. You have a less likely probability of any capit inversion once you head into East Texas, into Louisiana, into Arkansas, portions of Mississippi, into Tennessee. This is the favorite area that will have to be a little bit more concerned. You got the dew points raising a little bit higher by then. Right now, this far out, SPC doesn't have anything on this particular threat. This is the machine learning model where the instability could be by the time we head into your Saturday time frame, ahead of that cold front. Because underneath that, we've got a lot more green on the map. Yeah, that means maybe possibly the capit inversion is definitely not as strong out here into East Texas as we head through Arkansas, Louisiana, and getting back into Missouri, into Illinois. So we'll have to be watching this. But yes, the further north you get, the instability is not going to be there. It's probably going to be more of a southern threat into Missouri, Arkansas, East Texas, into Louisiana, going into Saturday afternoon. There's the overall instability with this. Again, we've got a fairly moving progressive cold front, so that's going to be, with the timing, this is only Tuesday, so we're talking this is Saturday time frame. So right now looks like the days to watch, more of a conditional risk on Friday, but on Saturday definitely less likely to have the cap inhibiting these thunderstorm development in the heat of the afternoon. So we'll have to be watching a little bit more widespread severe thunderstorms as we head into Saturday afternoon. And then back behind that, we've got some chilly stuff, so it is a pretty strong cold front for this time of year, especially for our northern regions. So yes, areas where you're experiencing those widespread 80s are going to replace with low temperatures of freezing conditions back behind that cold front. But that won't be until Saturday, especially into Sunday morning, up in these regions of the Dakotas, back into Minnesota. And you could actually even see some snow flying back into those regions as we head into your Sunday timeframes. If we look at the blend of all the models right now, it kind of depicts where that snow could be for the next 7-8 days. Again, we're getting into spring. We're getting, the further away we get away from winter, the harder it is to snow, and especially the less likely you have these cold fronts, coming further south, right? So, but still, we're gonna have to be dealing with some snow in around Montana, into Idaho, into Wyoming. Casper is going to be adding to those totals up there, into the Dakotas. More snow possibly by the time we head into Sunday for the Minneapolis area, maybe a couple of more inches for them back into Wisconsin. So more snow for definitely these regions, but far northern tier of the US. But here's the overall precipitation over the next 7 days. Again, I showed you where the instability is. We got a dominating ridge for much of the country, but where it's not in place, so it's a little bit more unsettled, where you do have the trough in. There's the cooler conditions, a little bit more unsettled weather, far extreme portions, not much for California, not really much for the desert Southwest. Notice on the Weather Prediction Center, there's not much into Kansas, into Oklahoma, into Texas, right? So it does have that strong capit inversion holding strong. So we'll have to look at more mesoscale guidance a little bit closer into this particular activity, if and when possibility the cap may break. Is something you just can't see this far out when it's only like a conditional risk of 20 to 30% in these regions. Where it's more certain is down here further south, draped across the far extreme coastal regions, complements of that coastal low. So in the beginning, that's the culprit that's going to be cutting off the flow from the Gulf of Mexico, and you have more of a northerly flow that kind of shuts down all activity. It's not until this activity moves across into the Carolinas where it does open up the Gulf and allow those south winds to crank in. That won't be until Friday and Saturday time frame. Then you have that instability with the possibility of the cabin inversion. So it's always like a puzzle happening across the United States. But I'll be here to let you know and figure it all out for you. So I appreciate you guys watching. But after that, we got cooler conditions. So by the time we head into Sunday, so that'll be moving across. We won't be really probably talking about record high temperatures anymore, but that warmer conditions will be far extreme portions of it back into New England, up here into Maine. So you never get out of the cold front because it never makes it your way, but much of the eastern 2/3 of the U.S. does experience those cooler conditions, probably 5 to 7 degrees, below average, what you typically see, this time of year. So I appreciate you guys watching. Be sure to watch the El Nino come-in video after this one. It really depicts on what may be happening more long term as we finally get out of the La Nina and the El Nino comes back in the picture by the time we head into summer, especially in the fall months. So catch me in the next update. Wire protect you before and after storm.